Back in 2012, I remember hearing the dying echoes of an argument about video games not being art. I say dying because gaming at that point had fully entered the mainstream. Even if you didn't game personally during this time, you knew someone who did. And it wasn't just kids and computer nerds anymore. Gaming had become as common in the entertainment industry as movies, sporting events, and TV shows. That argument had become silly. But the truth is, it was always silly. Titles like the OG Final Fantasies had been captivating people for years before Roger Ebert ever uttered the phrase, "Video games can't be art." Ebert's words are often misrepresented in the argument that he was trying to make in that statement, but many people still thought just that. Rest in peace, by the way. Nevertheless, I can't ever entertain this argument, and that's because of games like Journey. The 2012 cult classic was developed by That Game Studio, Tricky Pixels, and Santa Monica Studios. This small, unique experience has enchanted me for years, and charmed many back in 2012 as well. Journey got nominated against many heavy hitters in the Game of the Year category, and deserved to be. Games like Far Cry 3, XCOM Enemy Unknown, Telltale's The Walking Dead, Halo 4, Fuck You, I Like It, Assassin's Creed 3, and Max Payne 3. 2012 was a big year for gaming, so why did this little artsy game stand out amongst this crowd of AAA giants? I think we should find out. Just a heads up, I will be skipping the story section of this video. I will explain why in the presentation section. Don't worry, let's talk about the gameplay. Journey at its core is a platformer. Now when I say that, the game may appear to be in the same vein as other 3D platformers like Mario, Jak and Daxter, and so on, but that isn't the case. Journey prioritizes atmosphere over everything. As far as I can tell, it's impossible to die while playing. The biggest consequence players will suffer from the game's few enemies is a shortening of the iconic scarf. The scarf acts as boosters, for lack of a better word. As you progress through the game world, you find symbols that will extend the scarf's length, allowing for longer airtime when jumping. The length of the scarf determines how far a player can travel during flight until the scarf's energy runs out. The scarf can't recharge by itself until later, so you'll need to stand next to some of the ribbons that populate the world to regain the scarf's ability. Some of these ribbons also act as a boosting platform. If you walk into them, you'll begin to reach the sky.
The mothership is coming, and soon we will all ascend.
The platforming is very floaty and easy to navigate. There are some sections where you get to slide downhill to mix it up, but the majority of your time will be spent with the aloof style of platforming. And as I'm describing it, you'd be correct in assuming that the gameplay loop is very slow going. The developers of this game clearly wanted you to take your time, so you'd be able to appreciate the aesthetic. This could have quickly led to a boring experience, but luckily the game is exactly the length it needs to be. 3 to 4 hours is the length that most players will have during a first-time playthrough, so the mechanics don't outstay their welcome. When Journey was first released, many people assumed the world was huge and had abundant exploration, but that wasn't the truth of the matter. The experience is linear, with the primary goal being to travel to this mountain peak off in the distance. A strong wind will prevent further exploration if you try to leave the designated play area. Again, this sounds boring, but really, the game feels more like a relaxing meditation than anything. There is beauty in simplicity, and Journey is a masterclass in that statement. The best example of this is the way the cooperative play is handled. You're able to play with one random player at a time, and these random players appear in the world entirely out of nowhere. You will come across them like any other secret that inhabits the world. You'll be trying to reach an area and happen upon them. Another interesting design choice is there's no in-game chat in Journey. The only way to communicate with one another is through chimes that also act as a recharge for your scarf. Just stand next to your new acquaintance and watch the scarf fill with needed energy.
Safe now.
These interactions are truly where the game shines brightest. You'll be amazed at how attached you can get to someone you don't say a word to. The person I was playing with could be saying some of the most depraved shit possible, and I'd still enjoy their company because all they can say to me is, when you finish the game, you can see the gamer tag of the people you encounter, but until then, this is just a kind soul going on the same journey you happen to be on. There's nothing better than going through the game with another person. But don't get too attached, because you can lose them along the way due to traveling too far from one another, or the random player may just leave to make a sandwich, or return to real-world responsibilities by quitting the game.
Come back! Come back! Come back!
Once you finish Journey, there is a hub level at the start that allows you to jump between areas you've already been to, which helps when you're trying to collect the remaining symbols, which I highly recommend doing this because once you obtain all of them, you're able to unlock the white robes, which allows for much easier traversal. After all, the scarf will recharge on its own when worn. You become strong, independent,
And I don't need a man.
It's obvious at this point that Journey is more about the presentation than the gameplay, so it's time to look at that side. The art style is something to behold. Everything from the colors, environments, and character models has this soft watercolor tone, and watching this game play out is stunning. The mysterious character you play as looks so at home in this barren wasteland, and the attention to detail is notable. Sand moves beneath your feet as you walk, environmental effects are atmospheric, and almost every new area has a different color palette that allows the art directors to flex those creative muscles. You may feel like the whole game takes place in a desert at first, but players will encounter underground temples and snowy mountain climates as well. Half the time I felt like I was playing inside a Bob Ross painting, and that can't be a bad thing.
Look at that. Isn't that a nice little tree?
This brings me to the story on display here. Journey does a great job at conveying information through visuals. For example, when a player is about to finish a level, they see an altar that has the same symbols you can collect. If you see all the symbols on the altar illuminated, you can safely assume you've collected all the symbols in the area. No prompt explains this to you. When you see it, you understand what's happening. Also, there is no dialogue or text to explain the story you are experiencing. Journey allows players to interpret their quest any way they want. The only information related to the story is gathered through images that can be found, secrets along the way, or some of the game's very brief cutscenes. I've heard people say there is no story on offer, and I've also seen detailed explanations of how the entire game is a metaphor for religion. This is why I didn't include the story section in this video. Everything is implied through gameplay and visuals. I can't imply a story section when crafting my videos, even though I sort of did that with this section of the video. Damn it, I'm just realizing I kind of did that with this part. Well, I'm not rewriting that now, so moving on.
And slap 'em with a rock hard misdirection.
The score is just as subtle as the narrative, but it hits when needed. Just when you think the music is nothing but background noise, it will swell to a point of beautiful accentuation that makes the moment feel exciting or downright epic. The developers behind this game could give college-level lectures on making nuance feel compelling instead of pompous. A lot of games and movies that go for this style of presentation often feel like the creators got too far up their own ass when crafting their vision, and that's not the case when playing Journey. Players feel like they are a part of something bigger when they make it to the mountain. A deity calls you to the mountain peak, and it compels one to travel all the way to the end, whether you love the gameplay or not.
It's not the destination, it's the journey.
I love everything about the short experience Journey has to offer. The game proves that there is a place for this type of genre in an industry that only prioritizes bombastic narratives and high-octane mechanics. I have long stretches between playthroughs of Journey, but every time I boot it up, I'm put into a zen-like mindset. It's a practice in meditation, and while I may be getting too far up my own ass when saying that, I don't feel like that's the case. It's easy to get caught up in the chaotic hustle and bustle of our big world. Media like this reminds me that it's important to stay present in the moments we have. It's essential to plan for the future, but it's just as necessary to take stock of the time that is given to us on a day-to-day basis. Something that can bring me to that type of introspection is absolutely art. Getting that message across doesn't always have to be a grandiose spectacle. Sometimes it can just be a lone wanderer traveling through a world that is thrust upon them. That's it for me. And as always, thank you for your time.